A 17-year-old Joseph tended his father's flocks faithfully, unaware destiny was already unfolding beyond familiar horizons. Jacob draped a shimmering multicolored coat across Joseph's shoulders, igniting radiant pride and deep simmering jealousy. Brothers watched him walk adorned, whispers like cold wind carrying rancor, envy, and silent scheming under breath. Joseph timidly shared his dreams of bowed brothers and celestial crowns, words fracturing family warmth into shards. Hatred gathered like thunder. They plotted beneath olive trees, imagining bloodless solutions and grimmer betrayals with determination. On a dusty slope, they seized him, tearing coat folds while laughter and trembling hands negotiated fate. They hurled him into a deep pit, then sold him to traders, exchanging blood for silver coins. They painted Joseph's cloak with goat's blood. Broken Jacob wailed. Joseph rode among traders, caravan dunes swallowing his past as foreign son, baptized his frightened resolve slowly. In Egypt's bustling market, Potiphar purchased Joseph, noticing intelligence and quiet dignity within his young eyes always. Joseph adapted quickly, learning tasks with humble excellence, earning trust and subtle admiration from Potiphar and favor. His father's gift weighed on his thoughts, multicolored memories surfacing amid foreign linen and duty and longing. Potiphar's wife watched Joseph with growing desire, misreading kindness as invitation, craving forbidden closeness and dangerous dreams. Joseph fled her advances, conscience sharp as steel, choosing honor even when isolated and vulnerable, yet resolute. She screamed false accusations. Potiphar's trust shattered. Joseph stripped of position and dignity in accusation's shadow immediately. In cold prison, Joseph tasted bitterness, dreams deferred, yet he carried quiet faith like a hidden ember. He listened to fellow prisoners' visions, interpreting with compassion, offering clarity that warmed damp, fearful nights softly. The cupbearer promised remembrance, then forgot Joseph for 2 long years, leaving hope thin as breath fading. Pharaoh dreamt incomprehensible visions. His palace trembled as wise men failed and worry hollowed every hall deeply. At last, the cupbearer remembered Joseph, recalling forgotten interpretations while Pharaoh searched desperately for answers. Brought before Pharaoh, Joseph stood with calm dignity, eyes steady as he awaited the king's mysterious recounting. He explained dreams, 7 years' richness, 7 years' famine, counseled precise, compassionate plan to steward abundance wisely. Pharaoh elevated Joseph, clothing him in royal colors, sealing authority upon a humble, faithful heart and responsibility. Joseph adorned in Egyptian finery, maintaining familiar features and steady gaze, wise hands organizing grain stores efficiently. 7 abundant years passed. Granaries brimmed, people sang, and Joseph walked among measured blessings with solemn gratitude. He stored grain with prophetic foresight, mapping months, distributing tasks, teaching a nation discipline and hope steadfastly. When famine came, faces hollowed, markets emptied, distant relatives wandered hungry, faith tested across fields and plains. His brothers traveled to Egypt for grain, bowing unknowingly toward the man who once bore naive dreams. Joseph recognized them immediately, heart torn between revelation and testing, choosing silence like a slow blade deliberately. Accusing them of espionage, he spoke sternly, eyes unyielding, measuring truth and watching murmurs tremble with restraint. Joseph demanded they bring Benjamin as proof, stirring panic and distant memories of their stolen brother again. He held Simeon hostage, chains clinking softly, while brothers returned home carrying guilt and anxious uncertainty heavy. They returned to Jacob, voices cracked, confessing loss and pleading for Benjamin's safety and mercy with sorrow. Jacob mourned anew, refusing to release Benjamin, fearing final devastation, and clinging to remaining sons in desperation. Famine deepened, hunger sharpened decisions, and hope wore thin as they wrestled with impossible choices and prayers. Judah stepped forward, offering surety, voice trembling, bargaining with his father's heart and conscience for Benjamin's life. They returned to Egypt with Benjamin, heavy footsteps and whispered prayers, fearful of reunion and judgment silently. Seeing Benjamin, Joseph's heart crashed and softened. Tenderness battled years of pain and strategic restraint quietly now. He hosted a lavish feast for them, watching faces, slipping tests of compassion into every shared dish. Joseph forgave them with open arms, remembering father's teachings and seeing God's hand woven through suffering grace. Gods confronted them. Benjamin stood accused, brothers torn between truth, loyalty, and trembling fear and desperate pleading. Joseph declared Benjamin would be enslaved unless the guilty revealed themselves, watching their souls unravel in anguish. Judah rose, offering to substitute his life for Benjamin's, voice raw with repentance and love and resolve. Unable to bear more, Joseph revealed himself, tears flooding, voice shaking as truth spilled between them finally. They feared vengeance falling before him, expecting condemnation, but Joseph's face softened with memory and mercy always. He forgave them, explaining God's larger purpose, turning their betrayal into preservation and future promise for Israel. Joseph embraced brothers, arranging grain and lodging, orchestrating reconciliation from deep, painful memory into healing and restoration. He sent wagons to Canaan to fetch Jacob, urgent joy traveling across desert valleys and anxious nights. Jacob's heart stirred at the news, hope rekindled, age-softened face brightening toward long-awaited reunion with trembling gratitude. Families traveled with flocks and faded tents, elders leaning on staffs, following a distant promise toward Egypt. Upon meeting Joseph, Jacob staggered, unbelief collapsing into overwhelming embrace, years melting into holy astonishment and gratitude. Joseph presented his family to Pharaoh, securing land in Goshen where sons of Israel would flourish humbly. Pharaoh welcomed them kindly, granting provisions and respect, inscriptions of safety inked into their new chapter permanently. Joseph managed rations with judicial mercy, balancing survival and dignity, refusing to let famine erase covenantal hope. Jacob blessed Joseph's sons, placing hands with trembling certainty, transferring blessing into a promising, enduring lineage today. In his last days, Jacob blessed his children, exhales of faith passing like soft, blessed candlelight peacefully. After Jacob's death, Joseph reassured frightened brothers, forgiving again and binding grief with steadfast, humble leadership, gentle. Joseph aged in dignity, overseeing Egypt's storehouses, ensuring Israel's survival and teaching gratitude through abundance and humility. He reminded them God transformed evil into provision, urging remembrance, unity, and faithful stewardship for descendants always. Joseph died, aged and revered, leaving a preserved people, a story of forgiveness and covenantal preservation forever.